Hello, my name is Linda Watson, and welcome to Inspire Me Equine, a season of the podcast Inspire Me Forward. I'm the founder and host of this sacred circle. Recently, it came into our hearts that equine leadership and Inspire Me Forward should collaborate. Equine Leadership is a publication of short stories sharing the voice and wisdom of the horse. It's now going into its 11th year. Inspire Me Forward, in its third year, is a podcast platform sharing stories of life and all of the pieces that hold it together, even when it might feel like it's falling apart sometimes. This moment in time seemed like the perfect evolution of the two. It felt natural to invite the horses and authors from equine leadership. In this space, they will share their own unique ways of bringing the voice and wisdom of the horse to the human world. So, this season, we will delve into the horse-human relationship and the paradigm that is the herd in Inspire Me Equine. Equine leadership has a unique vision. We believe that horses, living as close to nature as possible, can provide a paradigm of living that is clear, authentic, and heart-based. There is much to learn that is good for all of humanity, as well as the collective that we call Earth. Spending time observing and interacting with the paradigm of the horses is a move to simplify life, to connect with something profound and enlightening. Their natural way of life offers insight into our truest paths. When we step outside of the ring and into the herd, we experience a relationship of equity and compassion. So before we begin, let us take a moment to breathe, connect our hearts with the present moment, and invite the horses to join us in this space. All right, so I can feel that all the horses are being here and your herd is with us. And thank you for being here in this episode, which is season 6, episode 38. And with me here today, I have Kelly Jones of Colorado. Thank you, Kelly, for being here. And I'll give you just a moment to say hello and introduce yourself.
Thank you, Linda. I'm so grateful to be here with you. I am Kelly Jones. I live in a little town of 400 in western Colorado called Crawford, with my 3 horses, 3 dogs, and 2 cats. And the name of my business is Unbridled Connection, and I also have a business named Somatic.
Awesome. And we will dive into those as we go along here. So Kelly has been we call it alumni author with Equine Leadership publication, and she has written articles or stories such as Allowing and Healing with Horses, Simplification and Love, and From Doing and Being. I love your articles. I love how your stories, how they're they're a journey from this state of being to, or that state of doing to that state of being. And each one of them takes us on a journey of self and how, with the horses and through examples, that we could experience that through your story, or if we're with the horse, inspire us to be with the horses. And I love the journey that each of your pieces takes us on. And I know you're going to write again for us in the upcoming edition. I've
Yes,
pulled,
thank you.
I've pulled a few quotes that I just are so powerful for me, and the first one is from our 10th, our last publication. It says, "A beautiful unraveling is revealed when humans are introduced to horses and learn to enter their world." And that just speaks so much that we have to learn about them, just like we have to learn about each other. And it's not just stepping in and here they are. Here it is. There's a learning to happen. And within that, that unraveling of who we are. And that's a very powerful quote for me. The other one I love is that a trusting interaction between horse and human can powerfully move a whole human into a space for healing. So
Yes.
that interaction, that space, again, that relationship. So I'm sure those might come up as we go along, but those are two that really jump out at me in all of your such profound words and how you articulate the space of the horse and the space of the human and the horse. So let's get started. And I'd love to start with a memorable moment that you have with a horse, something that just sits in your heart deeply, and it's just, yeah. What's one memorable moment you have?
Well, I have to share with you that this was actually pretty hard for me because I have so many. The horses have had such a profound impact on me that as I started thinking of the times over my life since I was a little girl that I've been lucky enough to interact with these incredible beings, it was difficult to pick one. And two actually popped up, and I thought I'd wait and see when I was in this moment which one felt better to share. And I'll have to say, gosh, it's still hard.
You can share them
Um,
both. Share them both.
okay, I'll share them both.
Okay.
The first one, part of my journey with horses started with me teaching humans about horses on the ranch I had in Texas. And one of the horses that I partnered with to teach little children how to ride was named Rumor. And he ended up being a 30-year-old thoroughbred when he passed over. But at this time, he was probably 26 years old, and he was a jovial, wonderful horse who I had known since he was very young and was full of spit and vinegar. And he took such good care of those little kids always, every single time. And one day, we were in a lesson with a little girl, and he just stopped. And he turned and he looked at me, and I knew he was done.
Mhm.
And he told me, and that was the first time that it hit me with such force how powerfully they can communicate with us if we will just listen, if we will just hold the space. It was so humbling. I immediately walked over, picked that little girl up, set her on the ground, told her what was going on. He
Mhm.
put his head down in her chest
Yeah.
and he just breathed her in. And she just held his head. And he was just the best horse. So loving. I had him at my place the rest of his life where he just ate watermelon and, loved on the kids. But as you can tell, it was just this profound, like, I'm done. And I was like, absolutely. You are done, and I love you, and I'm so grateful for you.
Mhm.
And the other one is the horse I have now, Lita, my bay mare, who's 25. She's been with me her whole life, and she and I partnered to provide EMDR to clients at my equine therapy facility in Texas. And one of the clients was a veteran who had been caught in an ambush in Iraq and was just stuck in her trauma. And she had been working for a very long time trying to overcome. And this particular session we had with Lita, I was struck by how connected Lita was to this client, that she knew exactly when we needed to stop and exactly when that client needed support. And that was another turning point in my partnership and relationship with horses, is to recognize their ability to have this deep connected relationship with more than one human at a time, even in one space in time, one moment in time. And
Mhm.
so those are the two moments that just have really came up for me and stayed with me when I was
Mhm.
considering your question.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing those. Can you share what EMDR is? Just
Sure. It is a way for humans to experience some trauma release. It's eye movement desensitization and I never can remember what the R stands for. It's a restoration, but and it's essentially on the in mounted work aspect of EMDR. We utilize the motion of the horse to regulate a human brain. And the reason that it's very effective is because we're not only doing the proprioceptic work and the balance work, but all of the brain and the body are involved in this process, including the relationship that the client has with the horse, which is that limbic system piece,
Mhm.
which is often what is impacted when trauma impacts the body
Sure.
is
Yeah.
that inability. So that back and forth, up and round motion of the horse helps the brain regulate and be able to
Interesting.
work through some of the trauma, the stuck trauma.
Interesting. Wow. That's it's fascinating. The more more and more I'm reading on how we're using not using the wrong word here, but how we are listening to the body and not just the brain. It's not just talk therapy, it is the body and where things get stuck and then moving them.
Yes,
I love it.
integrating that through the body so that stuck trauma response is no longer inhibiting the natural healthy vital movement of humans. The life force is released again.
Nice. Nice. Thank you. I love that. That first story is so special. And I think we were talking earlier before we started here about resonance, but when we say to our horses, I will listen to you, tell me when you're ready. When the time comes, it's still so powerful, even though we know it's coming or not, it's so powerful.
Hmm.
When they're just like, yeah, okay. And I think that's such a parallel to human society and listening, especially older, and just like, I'm done. Like it's just I'm ready to move. I'm ready to change. I'm ready to move on. Like there's so much that we get caught up in this world of craziness, and that listening just takes a quietness.
It does. It takes
Mm.
that stillness.
Yeah. Excellent. Wow. All right. Well, that's a powerful start. I love it. All right. So I'd love to give you some space to share your story of how you moved into the world of horses that you're in now, whether you started in it as an infant or whether you moved into it later on. But the floor is yours to share and tell us the story. Not necessarily what you're doing with horses right now. We'll get into that, but what led you here?
Well, thank you. I have a memory of being placed on the back of a horse when I was 2 years old. And I talked to my mother about it, and she said it was an Arabian mare that my great aunt had. And she loved this mare. And so that was my first real opportunity to spend some time with a horse. And I am that horse girl. I was born with it in my blood. It never left, despite the promises everyone made to my mother. So I would go to the beach and see a horse print in the sand and dream of the horse that had been there. I read every single horse book I could get my hands on. I still have on this bookshelf behind me that you guys can't see, but it King of the Wind and Misty of Chincoteague, the classics. I read them over and over, and so that was my little girl dreaming of horses, and I would um, beg my mother to put me in touch with horses because I lived in Beaumont, Texas, in a neighborhood, and there was no way we were going to actually have horses. And so she took me to a riding stable in Beaumont at a park where people would rent the horses and take them out and ride them in the park. And so I would clean stalls. I was 7 years old. I would clean stalls and groom horses and move horses around, and I just have such vivid memories of that barn. And that's where I think on a level I wasn't aware of at the time that I began to notice that I could communicate with the horses in the way that the grown-ups weren't communicating. For example, a horse was brought in and it was scared. It had not been treated well by someone who had been riding it. And all I knew to do was stand with it. I didn't do anything. Like they were curious to know why I wasn't grooming and why I wasn't doing all the things. And I just knew he needed me to stand with him. And this was a big old horse, and I was this little bitty girl, but there was never an ounce of fear from these horses. Other people would be afraid of them, but I wasn't. I knew, that they weren't going to hurt me. They were very, getting emotional again. They were very careful with me. And there was this connection I had with them, even at that little girl age. And I would spend time with other people's horses and ponies. I was blessed because my father lived in Colorado at the time, and he still does. But he had a friend who had horses, and every summer I would beg him to take me out there, and I would spend weeks at a time. And we would get up before dawn, have our fresh milk from the cow that they milked out back, pack our lunches up, and we would go and we would catch the Taco and Snowball were the name of the two old horses that Grandma and Grandpa had. And then we would also catch a horse named Thatcher. And so we would ride these horses, but the saddles were too heavy. So we would just go out there, little girls, put their little bridles on and hop on them bareback. Because back then I could just grab hold of their mane and swing up.
Yep.
And off we would go. And we would be gone all day long, building forts and swimming in the creeks. And, those horses were amazing. Snowball, I have this great, vivid memory of her. She could get her bridle off. So she would just leave us. Out in the middle of nowhere, because they had hundreds of acres. But she taught us some great lessons. And so I have some wonderful memories from that time. One of them, I went out and caught this horse because Thatcher was hurt. And so I just got another horse from the herd and hopped on her bareback, and off we went and had a lovely, wonderful day. Came back, and this young lady's father absolutely lost his mind. Oh my God, get off, get off, get off. And I was like, what? Nobody rides that horse. She's wild. She's not rideable. And I was like, well, we had a great day. you know, and to me, that really, even that little, I was probably 12 when that happened. I like and even at that time, I thought to myself, I think that sounds more like a problem with you than the horse.
You
You
problem.
know? So anyway, grew up that way. Went to school, finished, graduated high school, went to college, and then got married. And when I was 30, my husband's cousin called us because he knew I was horse crazy. And I bought a 15-year-old green Arabian mare named Aminadab from him. She was bay. And, if you've read King of the Wind, that was a bay or Arabian, right? So there I
Mm.
was, my little girl self again. And Amin never killed me, but she sure could have. I was such a naive horse owner when I started. I knew nothing, right? I'd ridden
Mm.
horses all my life, but I had not taken care of them. I had not interacted with them on a daily basis. And so that was a huge, wonderful, amazing experience for me. She was so smart. She knew exactly how to um, avoid really hurting me, but teaching me a really good lesson about life and to
Mm.
pay attention and to wake up human. And so that was awesome. About the same time I had my daughter, she was 2 years old. And so bought a ranch out in Texas, which is the one I lived on for 22 years. And then I bought my daughter. I actually didn't. I fostered a horse for a rescue. I started rescuing horses in 1999 for a a rescue group. I was their foster home, and I was supposed to take this foster mare home with us. And at the last minute, she got hurt, so they had me like I was literally like on my way, and they rerouted me. I went and picked up the horse Lita, whom I have now, and picked her up and brought her home. And she was my first foster fail. I
Mm-hmm.
immediately filled out the adoption papers, adopted her, and she raised my daughter. Like I said, I still have her. She's the most, she's my heart horse, the most incredible horse I have ever been around. She is able to read intention and communicate so clearly, even now, like this morning when I went and gave them their breakfast. So she's been a huge part of my life. I've had other horses. I had a brief stint of breeding horses, which was amazing for me to watch that process unfold with mothers and foals and
Mm-hmm.
seeing the gentle boundary setting and the playfulness and the incredible devotion that
Mm-hmm.
mothers have for their babies. So that was a wonderful experience as well. All along, I'm training horses, boarding horses, teaching, doing all of these things, and noticed over my time of teaching that there was more to that was going on than just teaching people about horses. There was some depth there, like when the mothers would arrive and be super anxious and they covered with Cheerios or whatever, I'd ask them to come and help me and groom this older mare who's still alive, by the way, lady. I think she's 32 now. And I'd say, hey, she just wandered around my farm. And I said, hey, would you brush her? She hadn't been brushed today. And it would be really helpful for me while I'm teaching, this lesson. And they would, because they're people pleasers, a lot of them. So, and by 15 minutes in, they're a totally different person, right? They're calm, gentle, loving with their kids, enjoying the sunshine. It just completely like shifted their entire presence. And so I wanted to find out what that was about. So in 2013, I went to my first natural lifemanship training and learned all about the brain of a human, the brain of a horse, trauma, how it impacts the body, what is anxiety, what is depression, what is our nervous system, how our nervous systems were created to protect us and heal us, and how they can get stuck. And it was just wonderful. And so then I interned at Spirit Reigns, which was a facility that helped traumatized children, foster adopt children, and international adoptions. And so I worked with children who were between 3 years old and 18 years old and learned so much from my mentor about allowing the horses to lead, not of getting in the way. I moved in 2015. I moved a lot of the equine therapy or I started my own equine therapy barn in Texas, and was able to see every day firsthand the incredible way that horses can create within humans space for curiosity and space for forgiveness and space for opening up perspective. And so that's where I am now. I am a somatic experiencing practitioner. I weave mindfulness and nature into the work that I do. And it's all because I learned to listen, and I learned to be still, and I learned to um, even help the therapists that I partnered with learn to be quiet. That's hard
Mm-hmm.
for therapists to do
Yeah.
because they're used to talking all the time.
Yeah.
And I had a horse named Summer that would literally put her body between the client and the therapist. And the therapist would walk around her, and peek around and try to talk to the client, and she'd move and block them again. So she was training them.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So
Interesting. Thank you for sharing that. Um, you said something there, and I thought if we can just delve into it for a second. And you talked about your heart horse, and I've got one of, three dogs, and I've got one that's I call her my heart dog, and everybody says that, but can we try to define, how would you define that? Because we say it, but how do we define it?
Well, I think it's hard for humans to do that without inserting competition into the or comparison. And so that's where we have to be really careful.
Sure.
Um, my heart horse is, for me, it's a very um, unburdened relationship.
Okay.
There is complete acceptance and um, unconditional honesty
Okay.
with her. It knows that she's safe to give me her opinion, and I know that I should listen to her. But she respects me and loves me. And when I leave, for example, and I go out of town or something, she gets upset with me.
Hmm.
And I can feel it wherever I am. And when I come home, and so that's that connection, right, that we have that isn't just physical, it's spiritual, it's
Hmm.
otherworldly, if you
Yeah.
will. That's just
Yeah.
different than the connection I have with other horses.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. No, and like I said, I've got one that's just, yeah, there's just that, it's just a different connection. It's just a different space that we exist in together.
Yes.
And I love all you've said, like that unburdened relationship, that unconditional honesty, knowing you're safe with each other, is, yeah, I love that. I think we say it so much, but what is it? Yeah,
Yeah.
what is that?
Yeah.
So let's get into what you do now. And that
Okay.
space that you hold with the horses, alongside the horses. I'm trying to be very cognizant of the words, um, my terminology that I'm using, and working with is, I'm trying to stay away from the word work. So I
Right.
like to frame
Yeah.
it as, the space you hold with the horses, because you are holding space alongside them, and then
Yes.
guiding the humans that come to you. But what do you do in that space? I will leave it open there and talk about what would you do in that space, and what can someone expect when they come and share that space with you?
Well, I like to be very simple and take it to basics. I'm a huge believer in the impact that nature has on humans. Biophilia is the name of that field of study. And the very first thing that I always go back to is, what is your body need? Our bodies need to know they're safe, period.
Yeah.
And when we've been in situations that are not safe, our brain has created ways to stay safe. And those are sometimes dysfunctional coping mechanisms. And so, in a way that brings gratitude to our body, I help humans understand that the things that are challenging are a result of this incredibly resilient nervous system that they possess. That it's not a curse, it's not something that's wrong with them. It is simply the way that they have survived. And without those skills, they wouldn't be where they are. They wouldn't have accomplished what they've accomplished. And so we start always with gratitude. And we are outside. I do a lot of mindfulness work before we enter the horse's space. I think it's important to honor the horses and where they are. They are present, they are calm, they are aware. And when I introduce humans into their space, I don't like to expect them to have to tolerate what we create, oftentimes, which can be a dysregulated energy field. And so I help humans learn what it feels like to not live in that dysregulated energy field. And dysregulated is just a way to say either that their senses are offline, i.e., they're a little bit in robot mode, or they're hypervigilant. So they're unable to relax and everything seems overwhelming. And so, depending on where this human is, we may just sit in the grass and listen to the birds and feel the sunshine on our arms, notice the breeze on our cheeks. Feel what the ground feels like underneath our feet. Really, it can sometimes be several sessions of simply learning and teaching the nervous system that it's safe where it is with me, where they are with me, so that then we start to learn, right? The human brain must be sensing safety in order for it to be open to rewiring, to be open to creating new neural pathways, to be open to letting down its guard and its protective mechanisms. And I kind of think of it like a turtle, like lifting up out of the water and looking around. Like, is it safe?
Yeah.
And yes, it is. Let's learn. Let's be curious together. And so we're curious about things. We're curious about why the rock is shaped the way it is and has the texture that it does. We're curious about how the sage smells, right? We're curious about the way the juniper needles feel under our fingertips. And then we begin the journey towards the horse. And at first, it's always just watching them out in the pasture together. What do you notice about the horses? Their tails are swishing, they're stomping, they are grazing, they're napping, they're noticing something, and then they're going back to grazing. And we just take note of all of those things, right? And so then we, as predator mammals, even as far away as 100 yards away, know the prey mammal is safe. And there again, we're reinforcing with the brain, you're safe, stay with me, right? Let's keep going. And then when we are ready to enter the horse's space, we walk towards them and notice what happens. Do they turn and notice us? Do they move towards us? Do they move away from us? Taking note what happens in our bodies when they do those things. When they turn and walk towards us, how does it feel inside of our body? It feels good, right? Where do you feel that? My heart, are often examples. Sometimes people just start crying because for the first time, maybe in decades, they feel safe and they don't even know why they're crying, but they needed to release, and crying is a really good release for the nervous system. Then we let the horses choose whether they want to touch us or interact with us. When we do that, the actual touch is so powerful. When a horse chooses to reach out and touch a human, it completely shifts the relationship that humans have often thought of themselves having to have with horses, right? I'm supposed to be the dominant leader. I'm supposed to be in control. And when we walk up to them and open up space and allow and desire touch and desire connection, it shifts the entire way that we interact with the horses. And so we do that. And then the relationship just grows from there. I let them choose a horse to partner with. And then the relationship cues that they've had in the past that maybe don't work come up. We talk about those things. We, in a very confrontational and non-judging way, figure it out. Where does that come from? What memories do you have of having that sensation in your body? When is the first time you felt that? Would you be okay staying with that for a little while? And the horses hold space for that, right? The horses stand right there with us. As long as we're present and we're honest and authentic and we're not hiding and wearing a mask and running away and shutting down the feelings, they'll hang with us. And we talk about that with the clients too. Like, how does it feel in your body? And don't go away. Stay with it in a very gentle way and then pop out of it. And then let's come back to it again and see how it's doing now. And And so it's this exploration, and everything that I do is because I want these humans. I know that when this human being that I'm working with can be empowered to face their shadows, can rise above the fear, can feel the sense of strength and vitality returning to their bodies, get in touch with their spirit and their soul, that their whole world will shift permanently. It's not a, hey, good luck, I'll see you next week. It permanently shifts their nervous system. Their fragrance, this newness about them starts to permeate the atmosphere.
I love that.
And then we're all in this together, pushing away the darkness, pushing away the evil, pushing away this heaviness that tends to want to settle on humanity. And so that's my goal is I want to return us to who we were before we were born, essentially.
Yeah,
That that goodness and that sense of strength.
for sure. Beautiful, beautiful. I was right there. It was beautiful. Um, do you have any areas of like a specialty areas that you work in or folks that are going through specific things, or can anyone get in
I
touch and come your way?
Anyone can come my way. Some of the specialties that I've worked with and have a lot of experience with include narcissism, people who have been in relationships with narcissists, whether that's a parent relationship or a spousal partner relationship, perhaps even working with people who've been in the armed services, and then that kind of a narcissistic relationship with the army or with
Mm,
the whomever, and the results of that narcissistic abuse, where we question ourselves, we question our abilities to, the gaslighting is really powerful. It truly is trauma. People don't think it is, but it's that little t trauma, that daily dose of trauma that is really difficult to recover from. I help people, a lot of the symptoms that I help people with, like eating disorders, anxiety, depression, this inability to concentrate. Most of the people that come to me, actually, lately, it's been really interesting. I have 30 somethings that are searching for their sense of identity,
mm,
that in their world, they weren't allowed the opportunity to dive into what spirit means. They got the mind part down, they got the body part down, but they know
mm,
something is missing and they want help finding their connection to themselves. Like they feel lost in the on the world, like this
mm.
chaos wants to pull on them,
Yeah,
and they want to feel that sense of foundation. And so I help them find their life force.
nice.
So
Oh, um a bright light to hear that we're not we don't do that as we're older. It's getting sort of the generation younger that's starting to go, wait a minute,
something's
there's
missing here.
something's
Yeah, it's
missing. There's
great.
more. Yeah. So
Yeah,
lovely. Would you have a client story that you could share with us? No names, of course, or names changed.
sure. I think the most still for me, the story I told said in the magazine, I think in 2020, where I had a young lady, she was in her early 20s. She had been hit by a truck in a crosswalk, and she had a traumatic brain injury on both sides of her brain. One side hit the hood of the truck, the other side of her brain hit the pavement.
Mm,
And she had been in the hospital, she'd been through physical therapy, she'd been through um, occupational therapy, she'd been through all the things, quote unquote, that you're supposed to do to recover from this sort of injury. And she was stuck. And I don't like people to wait to come to let horses help them till there's no other choice. They've tried everything else. I really want you guys to come now first. Let the horses help you first. But she said, I don't know what to do. So her pattern of speech was not rhythmic. She could come up with the words, but there wasn't cadence to her speech. And she was really struggling with that. And she couldn't walk with cadence. it was a struggle to have a rhythmic gait. And she just was emotionally still traumatized by what had happened. She had been mistreated at the hospital and overlooked by people that were supposed to help her. So there was that trauma that comes from us trusting that the system is going to support us, and it doesn't,
Mhm.
which compounds oftentimes trauma that we're undergoing physically from an accident or surgery or disease. And so she worked with Lita, my heart horse, and she worked with me for a year, and we started on the ground, just like I explained. We did the nature, whole lot of outside, letting her nervous system understand she was safe now, letting her body feel the rays of the sun. We would just walk, but not with like exercise in mind, just mindful walking,
Mhm.
noticing what was around us, really doing. I had swings at my ranch in Texas. We would swing
Mhm.
just to get rhythm back into her body and into her brain. And then eventually, she and Lita were ready to move their relationship to a different level, which was the mounted work. We did mounted work the very first time she sat on Lita. It was like an electric pulse went through her body. You could see it. And we didn't even move. She just sat on the horse. And the ways that our bodies interact with one another is physics. It's quantum physics. It is incredible. It's beyond our level of consciousness to even comprehend what is happening. But from that moment on, from the time she walked onto the property and Lita chose her
Mhm.
till the time she left, she went to nursing school and she was jogging around
Mhm.
Lady Bird Lake again. So it was a miracle, you know,
Mhm.
for her body and her mind and her brain and her everything to have felt safe enough to go through a year-long journey of healing. And I think last time I talked to her, she was starting a nonprofit to help families who had just had a baby, because she recognized that as a whole, our communities have fallen apart, and the church people don't go to church anymore, which is where you used to get support
Mhm.
for having a baby, right? Everybody'd bring you meals and all these
Yeah.
things. And so she was creating a nonprofit to support new families so that they could have food and clean clothes and a clean house and all of the things. So just her heart for others was just beautiful as well. So that's
Yeah.
probably the most incredible story to me of the way that horses can heal us in so many ways or help us heal.
Hell, yeah, and give that space
Yes, hold the space
to,
for it.
yeah. And and as you've said several times here, is let us know, let someone know that they're safe so they can heal. Because if we're
Yeah.
not safe, we don't feel safe, there's no healing is going to happen. So it's give that space. But I'm so glad we had this conversation. It's like
Thanks, me too.
you've really brought it the steps you take to make that happen, and that you don't put it all on the horse.
No, it's not about the horse. It's about allowing ourselves as humans to set aside all the armor we put on ourselves
Mhm.
and trust.
Yeah, and trust that unraveling, as we
Yes,
said at the beginning,
exactly.
and
Trust the
that
unraveling.
the unraveling will take us to a safe and better place.
Yeah, because most of the time
Um,
the horses are just holding space for us. They're not
oh,
doing anything. I don't use pool noodles and balloons and all those things. I literally have me, a horse, a client, and nature.
yep, there you go.
Sometimes a grooming brush because of the rhythm that
Absolutely.
we can
Yeah.
establish there. But
Yeah.
yeah, it's simple.
But it
It's so
becomes,
simple.
sorry, it becomes, the grooming becomes not for the purpose of grooming. It becomes a reflective exercise. It becomes a, like say, a rhythmic movement exercise back on the person.
And it's a way to teach how to have connection without a task involved.
Yeah.
How do we notice that the movement of this thing in our hand on this horse without having a goal of getting the horse clean? It's simply about this is something because horses groom each other. This is something that I can learn, a way I can learn about this horse and help our relationship deepen and
Absolutely.
get out of task mode and
Yep.
catch yourself when you get into task mode and get yourself back out of task mode. It's really interesting to have them notice that, because how often we check out and get into robot mode when we're doing the dishes
Mhm.
or doing a chore, and how we lose connection with the people we love during those moments, and how we can actually do both.
Exactly. Absolutely. I Yeah, it reminds me of recently our one dog was having a litter, but as she was pregnant, we would brush her, but it became not a task. It became this
Mm,
loving moments that she cherished, that it was slow and she would jump on the couch and ask for it. And
yeah.
we would willingly, because it was just so much, I say fun, but it was just beautiful to have her just go, yeah, whenever you're ready. I want the loving.
Yes,
And
yes. It's so lovely to open ourselves up for opportunities to be in those moments.
yeah, yeah, it changed everything for us. And if a brush comes out, it's a just completely different
Yeah,
um
I love that.
way now. So I think we are almost done. I have one more question for you. And that is,
Okay.
what is in your heart that wishes to be shared as we close the gate on this episode?
I want to share that you are, you being the whole, you are strong enough to face your shadows. You can reconnect to your life force. It's there, it's waiting for you to see it and find it and sustain connection to it.
Yeah. Wow, you came in on a powerful one, you left on a powerful one. Thank you for that. That
You're
brings
welcome.
brings a tear to my eye. And that's because my heart is expanding.
Good.
So thank you, Kelly. Thank you for
You're
sharing
welcome,
this
Linda. Thank you
time
for
today.
this.
Oh,
I appreciate
I
it.
love these doing these. They are my heart time. I will say
Yes. Well,
that, my heart hour.
thank you for putting it together and for sharing with so many.
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you all for joining us in Circle at whatever moment in time that you're listening to this. I hope you're inspired by the horse and by those that work, not work, spend sacred time with the horse. I will put a link to Kelly's articles and stories from Equine Leadership and a few other things that we've spoken here today, as well as Kelly's contact information, so you can get a hold of her if you wish to. There's many ways that you can stay tuned and inspired with Inspire Me Equine. And you can join our Facebook group named Inspire Me Forward. You can find our Equine Leadership webpage. And of course, we have a YouTube channel. You can find us on Apple and Spotify and any place that you can find any podcasts. And we are looking forward to, we love the ones we've had, and we're looking forward to having more of these. So please also consider sharing this episode. We like to say share it forward. We just never know who needs to hear the words that are shared in this circle, because maybe sharing one story might be the very thing another human needs to open their heart for a brighter tomorrow. And so with that, thank you all for being here.